Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where I've entitled it Rank Order Observations. And certainly, as we said, we film for a lot of reasons. We film for YouTube. We film to help give us an understanding of how animals are interacting with each other and if there's any medical conditions or anything like that. And here's the old moose hide, which was put in a long time ago and is still there. But one of the things that we're really looking at now is rank order issues. Bolt and Luna will be celebrating their first year birthday coming up in March. Bolt is March 17th. Luna is March 25th. So we're wanting to see how they're progressing as far as personality, as far as cohesiveness in the pack, and rank order issue plays into that as well. Bolt, we are finding, is a bit timid, and that is primarily around food possessions, but also around social interactions. He does gain a lot of confidence from being with Luna, so if there's a paired encounter between he and Luna, he seems to do better than if he's by himself. We are still feeding them twice a week, small amounts of food, but they do seem to prefer carcasses. And so here's Luna trying to get to Bolt's beaver vertebrae that he was just chewing on. You can see Luna's a little stiff there. She has a hard time making a jump to the top of the rock, but she certainly is capable of moving around. She gets excited by carcasses. It certainly stimulates a lot of predatory behavior in her. Tug of war, plucking, chasing, tossing, those kinds of things are common with Luna around food. And Luna is the only female, so she, in the rank order situation, is the dominant female just by default. So we don't worry about her so much. I mean, she's doing well. Certainly she's smaller, and that leg, is obviously something that we want to make sure that she's feeling comfortable about that plate. The straw in the pen is her source of comfort. She's got it figured out. When it's cold, go find a straw bed and lay in it. So our job is to make sure that we have plenty of straw beds for her to choose from and lay in. So that's working out well for her. But like I say, the rank order issue is something that will develop as time goes on. Yearlings, they might still be kind of perceived as puppies. Certainly some of their antics are perceived as puppies. Luna has been lately getting involved with ravens and raven chases and tossing things, but the development of this rank order is going to occur here in the next probably 6 to 8 months when they reach full adulthood mentally. And so here they're still doing a little bit of that puppy jaw sparring, puppy wrestling. But what's been a little bit of an interest in this is, as we've said before, Denali seems like he's just one of the pups. He's just going to wrestle a bit. But he comes in with a threat display and some hackles that's a little bit more than just pup-on-pup wrestling. Bolts is going to do a ride-up on him, and Luna here does a face-off. And she goes right in Denali's face, and she's going to jaw spar, and she's going to do a little threat display. And Denali is a little overwhelmed, and so he pins Bolts to the ground, and Luna just goes after him even more. So Bolts, you can see, is doing a little bit of what we call the obnoxious submission. He's going to have his ears flat back. He's dropping his head. He's trying to roll over for Denali because he's a male, and he's part of this rank order, and he's the bottom of the rank order. And he's trying to look for that kind of what we call obnoxious submission to interact. Luna, on the other hand, she's not going to submit, and she's going to do more of a confrontation. Now, of course, this started as pup-on-pup interaction. It was Denali who put himself in the middle of it. But Luna's not going to end it. She's not going to just let him get away with that. So you're going to see a lot more kind of threat displayed, a lot more lunging. Now, I don't know if you heard it, but Luna did a little bit of a yelp. That brings Aidan into the picture, and Aidan's going to just settle it. Aidan's the dominant pack member here. Aidan pins Denali without question. Is going to keep him rolled over on the ground. And Luna and Bolts just kind of go about their business. What's interesting is this gets fairly intense for Denali. Bolts seems to just not even have a concern. I mean, he's watching, and his ears are kind of moving around, but he's not going to get involved when Aidan's involved. As soon as Aidan backs off, then Bolts is going to go in there and kind of interact. Once Aidan has him pinned, then again, he's a little more free to move in there. So Luna, she's definitely going to be in that rank order and be engaged right in that rank order. Aidan clearly is. He's going to get involved when he seems to be when the pups let out a yelp or it gets too rough. Bolts, he's going to be watching. He's going to be watching. If Aidan's involved, he's going to back off. But if it's just Denali, he's going to be right up in there doing ride-ups. So these four are going to develop into some kind of a hierarchy. That's what captive wolves do, and especially non-related captive wolves. The difference in the wild is wild animals and wild packs of wolves are typically parents and their offspring. So they're not taking as much lip from their offspring because they're their own pups. And so there's kind of growing up with their parents, whereas these wolves are introduced to one another. And here Denali does get Luna down, and what's interesting is Luna's tail is tucked. So that's tucked tail is a little bit more of a fear response and not something that she's willingly accepting. Now when Bolts does it, her tail relaxes, and she does an inguinal presentation just where she's presenting herself and not as uncomfortable with it. That's probably the best way to describe it. Now she certainly doesn't like Bolts dominating her, and she'll do a foreleg stab and grab onto his lip there to interact, but this rank order is going to be interesting. So we switch over to the Grizzer's pen where there isn't a rank order. It's just Grizzer and maybe Oscar. But Grizzer is doing snowplow there. Some fresh snow came down, and we did have probably about 8 inches accumulation. So it was a nice dusting of snow in it, and it certainly makes things a little bit more interesting for the wolves from the standpoint of fresh snow to rub in and roll in. That is something that is a face wipe that might be done after a feeding. This doesn't really, there is some food in the enclosure, but this probably is a little more social and certainly part of the wolf care experience. When we do interact with them, they get a little excited and they like to run, they like to chase, and they like to, roll in things and just be social. So these are social behaviors that are just inherent to the breeding process. But Grizzer, like I said, is doing real well. Having no issues. Over in retirement, Shadow Malik are doing much better, and this is Malik. I give you a close-up eye view there, see if you could identify those eye characteristics. And Shadow's doing much better. We always know by the alertness of the animals, and you can see in the eye posture here, Oscar is doing something in the yard here, but he's keying into it, he's alert, he's back to interacting. They're doing a few standoffs here, a little face-off between the two. Malik is going to do invite chase, body posture, go down into a play bow and try to stimulate chase, but back to, same interaction. So the viral issue that we had is over. The scat is back to normal condition. We are seeing less water consumption than we had during this viral infection and doing well. So we'll leave you with a little bit of a howling clip here from Shadow. Again, he starts in that howl that's a little bit hoarse from a 13-year-old animal, but he is the leader of this pack, and he does howl in response to activity in the exhibit pack, but they howl equally as much back to him. So I'll leave you with listening to these starts and stops, not a real full developed howl, but definitely we know that Shadow's feeling better. So thanks again for watching. We thought we'd end this episode of YouTube with some Oscar footage. We haven't seen Oscar for a while. He's been around, just haven't had a chance to film him. He happens to get into the scat bucket and gets a deer hide that we had just pulled out of the exhibit pack, and he's going to demonstrate all the same behaviors that you see in the wolves. So that means tugging or plucking the hair out of the hide, tossing it, chasing it, and then when we want it, certainly playing keep away or grabbing that and running as one of those Oscar kind of traits. That little aggressive pounce that makes him a dog that happens to live in a wolf yard. So that's it for this week's YouTube. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.